It had been exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 11 days. Demet knew that because she had counted every morning when she woke up, and every night before she tried to sleep. She was seated in her usual spot by the window, a cup of chamomile tea untouched in her hand. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that her world had once been set ablaze and left to smolder in silence. On her phone, there was a message. Unsent. Unread. Untouched. Except for the nights when her hands trembled and her heart betrayed her memory. It lived in the draft folder like a ghost trapped between realities. Can, if you're reading this, it means I found the courage I didn't have that night. The truth is, I never stopped. That's where the message ended. She had written more. So much more. But never pressed send. Because that night, she thought it was already too late. Back then, Can had just finished filming in Morocco. They hadn't spoken in weeks, but the silence wasn't new, it was their twisted dance. Close, distant, warm, cold. But that night, something shifted. He had called. Twice. She saw it. Ignored it. She told herself it was self-respect. But deep down, it was fear. Not fear of him, but fear of what her own heart might say if she heard his voice. So instead, she typed the message. And didn't send it. That one decision changed everything. But Can? He never even knew there was a message. Can remembered that night differently. He had been pacing outside his hotel room, phone in hand, waiting for the screen to light up. He wasn't the kind to wait, not for anyone. But with her, everything was different. He was ready to say it. To finally confess what he had buried under months of pretending. He wasn't angry she hadn't called back immediately. Not at first. He thought maybe she was asleep. Maybe she was with friends. Maybe she was just tired. But when hours passed and the silence stretched into morning, he took it as her answer. He deleted her number. Or so he told himself. Truth is, he memorized it long ago. Even if he wanted to forget, he couldn't. What he didn't know, what he never knew, was that her message sat just on the other side of a send button. Waiting. That night, as he stood on the rooftop staring into the stars above Casablanca, he whispered one thing. If she just says it once, I'll stay. I'll fight. But silence answered him. So he walked away. Back in Istanbul, Demet stayed in her apartment that entire weekend. She opened his message thread, read every line from months ago, and hovered her thumb over send. But she didn't. Because pride. Because doubt. Because timing. Because love, when mixed with fear, becomes something cruel. And from that night forward, neither of them knew how close they had come to saving what was already breaking. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks melted into months. The message never sent became a silent witness to their crumbling world. Demet threw herself into work, filming new projects, attending glamorous events, and smiling for the cameras. But behind the scenes, her eyes betrayed the storm raging inside. She avoided places where they had once been together. She erased photos from her phone, except the one she hid deep inside a forgotten folder. She blocked his number on every device, hoping that if she couldn't see him, the pain would fade. Can, on the other hand, retreated into himself. His calls went unanswered. His texts received no replies. His heart learned the language of silence. And yet, none of it was truly over. Because the message had never been about just words. It was about a door left ajar, an opportunity that neither dared to walk through. At every award ceremony, at every interview, at every whispered conversation, they both felt the ghost of what could have been. He caught himself staring at his phone, hoping for a ping, a text, anything. She found herself checking the drafts folder, willing herself to send that one message that could rewrite their story. But life was relentless. Circumstances intervened. Fate toyed with them. The ripple effect of that one unsent message stretched further than they could imagine, influencing decisions, shaping new relationships, and altering dreams. And all because of a moment frozen in time. The message wasn't just words, it was a key to the past. A past filled with laughter, stolen glances, and whispered promises. Can remembered the night they first met, the way her smile lit up the room, how her eyes seemed to understand every unspoken word inside him. Demet recalled the late-night talks, the gentle touches, and the dreams they dared to share under the starry sky. But somewhere between the moments, cracks had begun to appear. Misunderstandings grew like shadows, doubts whispered louder than truths, and silence became the loudest language they spoke. The unsent message carried all that weight, the hope, the fear, the love, and the regret. Can, I wanted to tell you everything. How I felt, how much I waited, how much I believed we could still find our way. She wrote it again and again in her mind, rehearsing the words she never said aloud. Because sometimes, the heaviest things are the ones left unsaid. And for Can? He wondered if he ever really knew what she was trying to say. If he had just waited a little longer, listened a little closer, would it have made a difference? The message held a silent question, what if? Can sat alone in his apartment, the walls closing in with memories he couldn't escape. Every time his phone buzzed, hope surged, only to crash when he saw it wasn't her. He replayed that night over and over. The missed calls, the silence, the things he never said. Why didn't you answer? Why didn't you tell me? Did you want me to leave? He didn't have the answers. Only the empty space where her voice should have been. In his heart, a confession burned brighter than the spotlight he was so used to. He loved her. He always had. But love, when wrapped in silence and missed chances, can feel like a prison. He longed to tell her everything, how he fought his own fears, how he wanted to hold on, how the message he never received changed his fate forever. Yet, the words stayed locked inside. Because sometimes the hardest battles are fought in silence. Demet stared at her phone, the glowing screen a mirror of her restless mind. The draft message blinked back at her, a silent plea frozen in time. She knew sending it could change everything. It could reopen wounds or mend the cracks. It could bring hope, or heartbreak. Her fingers hovered over the send button. Each time, doubt stopped her. What if he's moved on? What if he hates me for the silence? What if the moment has passed forever? But beneath those fears, her heart whispered truths she couldn't ignore. Maybe he's waiting for me to be brave. Maybe this message is the bridge we both need. She took a deep breath. But before her thumb could press send, her phone buzzed. A message notification appeared. From an unknown number. She opened it. The words inside were short. But they shattered her world all over again. There are things you should know. Things I couldn't say. Demet's hands trembled as she reread the message. Who could it be? Was it someone from their past? A friend? Or someone who wanted to stir the silence between her and Can? Her mind raced with possibilities and fears. The message felt like a key to a locked room she didn't want to open, but had no choice but to. She called Can. No answer. She sent a text. Still no reply. The silence that had haunted them now had a new layer, one of uncertainty and suspicion. Demet knew one thing. This message could change everything again. It could uncover secrets, reveal truths, or deepen the wounds. But she was ready to face it, because some messages, even the ones that never reach, echo louder than words. Demet couldn't hold the secret any longer. The message wasn't from a stranger, it was from someone close. Someone who knew the story better than anyone. Her closest friend, who had witnessed the pain, the silence, and the distance growing between her and Can. The friend's message revealed a truth Demet had been avoiding, something about Can's own struggles, something that explained the silence, the missed calls, and the walls they built. It was a truth that changed everything. A truth that could either heal or finally break them. Demet sat, heart pounding, realizing that the message she never sent and the message she just received were two halves of the same broken story. The night was quiet, but inside Demet's heart, a storm raged. She finally pressed send. The message she had carried for years, the words she'd been too afraid to say. Can, I'm sorry for the silence. For the missed chances. But I want you to know, no matter what happened, I never stopped believing in us. Seconds felt like hours as she waited for a reply. Her phone buzzed. It was him. I was lost without your words. But maybe, it's not too late. Tears blurred her vision as she smiled for the first time in a long time. Sometimes, the messages we're afraid to send hold the power to change everything. Because in the end, it's not about the words missed or the silence kept, but about finding the courage to speak when it matters most. And this time, they were ready to listen.